For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Motshabi Hoaeane. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner discusses South Africa's 2014 elections and the pressing political developments stemming from the outcomes. Thank you for your time, Professor. You've placed a lot of emphasis on looking beyond elections. Doesn't this present the danger of seeing elections as unimportant?
I think it's quite important to say that I'm not cynical about politics, but the politics on which I'm commenting is in fact conducted on a cynical basis. So that if I say that we need to look beyond politics, beyond elections, I'm not saying elections are unimportant, but because there are certain flaws in looking at elections as the major expression of political life, I'm saying we need something additional to that. If we look at the election process, in some ways it did not really see the discussion of a whole lot of issues that are important to people. In fact, much of the election was mudslinging from one side to the other, and the elections have come and gone, and we've seen that a number of issues that concern the public remain unresolved. We don't know that anything will be done about the Nkandla scandal. We've had the reappointment of a number of people who have got serious question marks behind their name. We've seen a situation where politics is not really about issues. Politics is really about who you reward, and you've seen the return of various people like Beki Cele, who left under a cloud, and you've seen the dismissal of various ministers who had question marks around them over the use of violence, in the case of the Minister of Police, over irregularities in the former Minister of Agriculture. They have not been dismissed, they've just been put in other portfolios that are very important for our political life and our social and cultural life. So what I'm really saying is people in South Africa who want to make good on the promise of democracy of 1994 cannot look to elections alone. That is why I have a lot of interest in the NUMSA initiative, which is one of a number of initiatives for a united front. I believe that it's important to find a way for ordinary members of the public to be active political subjects, people to be able to play a role in their own political self-realization, and that need not be only by voting. They can get involved in a range of organizations related to what interests them. That may be sport, that may be environmental protection, that may be workers' rights, it may be a number of other things. And I would like to see that body of people who feel that the violence, the corruption, the malgovernance that we're seeing at the moment is an obstacle to seeing democratic goals being realized. I would like to see them united. Now, I've raised the question of the NUMSA initiative as being sometimes pitched as solely related to the working class and to socialism. And I've suggested that it is important that the broad front approach is adopted. Now, one of the statements of Ivan Jim, which I'm quoting in an article that is just gone on your website, suggests that they are not only speaking to those who are committed to socialists and saying that there are many people who are like-minded who are not socialists. And I think our starting point has to be, who has an interest in ending the corruption, patronage, violence, attacks on the Constitution that are suffusing our present political life? Who has an interest in recovering the promise of 1994? Let all those who love their country and freedom, as the Freedom Charter says, join together. Now, that doesn't mean that people who are socialists cannot argue within the front for a socialist orientation and try to get that to be dominant within the front. It may also be that some of the tenets of people who join that front are not immediately put in the forefront of that front. Now, it's the character of united front politics that you take what is common, but what is specific you have to argue for. And it's not just socialism, it's a whole lot of other things which, let's say, gender equality is part of the Constitution, but it may well be that some people want to insist that men do housework or something like that, and you can't immediately expect that to be part of the front's basic demands, and you argue for that within it. So that is my position, that voting is very important, but political life does not equal voting alone. It can go beyond that.
Now, don't you feel that the most important issues confronting our society were in fact raised in elections?
Well, that's the problem with the elections, that they were not in fact raised. That all the people who live in the rural areas are now facing the possibility or the likelihood of the traditional courts bill being reintroduced, because the chiefs have not given up. And the chiefs have not even bothered to campaign over this. They don't rely on democratic procedures. They rely on the influence on the government to ensure that what they wish will be imposed on the people. It's what I would call re-establishing the conditions of Bantustan rule over people in the rural areas. We also have a new land restitution bill which is about to come into effect, and what it's done is extended the range of people who can claim land which was wrongly taken away from them. But at the same time, they have not increased the budget. So there are already outstanding land claims which are not met. So the likelihood now is that there's no way that all the claims will be met. But what is more dangerous, it seems that the aim is to have chiefs claim, traditional leaders claim on behalf of communities. King Goodwill, Zwelithini, and the President have made statements to the effect that the chiefs represent communities and they will claim on their behalf. So they're very, very dangerous things that were not raised in the elections. The question of patriarchy was, as I've mentioned before, was not raised in the elections, yet patriarchal violence, masculine violence, relates to patriarchy. And we need, if we want to address the commitments of the Bill of Rights, one of these is gender equality, and we need to end this situation where there is a de facto hierarchy in the Bill of Rights, where we observe the Bill of Rights when it affects racist remarks, but we do not really put weight into ensuring rights like gender equality and freedom of sexual orientation, and where we are now allowing the possibility of people again being put in the same, well, they are already in the same boundaries as the former Bantustans and under the unwanted rule of chiefs. If people want to be under the rule of chiefs, that is their right, but it should not be compulsory in a democratic state. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights once more, Professor. That was Raymond Suttner on the changes in the ANC-led alliance and prospects for a new unity.